Hi, and thanks for taking the time to watch my webinar as part of the Bridging the Divide series from the California History Social Science lessons that are optimized for distance learning. I'm going to be taking you through a lesson today formatted for grade 12 students on the preamble and responsibilities of the government. Now, while I take you through this lesson itself, I want to make it clear that there are numerous lessons for all grade levels that can be found within this project. And all of those lessons fall under the 5E format. And there's a purpose behind using the 5E format for these lessons. It's a common format. That way there's ease for teachers to flow through with a similar setup for each lesson. It aligns with the format of a hyperdoc where teachers can click and get access to resources, making it that much easier to follow. And want to give you a little bit of background on this 5E format. One of my colleagues said that this format was set up for the sciences initially, but has been brought into this project as well because of the way that it engages students by allowing them to explore, explain, and elaborate while the teacher provides feedback and students do during the evaluation portion of the lessons themselves. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, and I'll try to get through this and get you right to the lesson. My name is Stephen Little, and I'm a teacher and also civic learning coach in the Anaheim Union High School District, where I'm the social science department chair at Savannah High School. I'm also a member of the advisory group for the State Seal of Civic Engagement. And at Savannah High School, I'm a world history teacher, AP US Government and Politics, and AP European History teacher. I wrote 5 of the 12th grade lessons for government. And like I said, I'm going to be taking you through one of those lessons for today. Now, the lesson itself that I'm going to be taking you through is a lesson on the preamble and responsibilities of government. And I would see this as the opening lesson in a series, but there are other lessons as well, depending on where you're at, including lessons on federalism and state sovereignty, political parties, freedom of expression, and public opinion. Now, please keep in mind that these lessons were created with the idea that there are challenges in distance learning, and they're meant to ease your ability to connect with your students through distance learning and set up in a manner that's hopefully very functional for your classroom, relevant for your students, and is going to lead to more engagement, learning on their parts, and the ability for you to assess that learning along the way. So the lesson itself is connected to the history, social science standards and framework, while also integrating with the Common Core standards for English and language arts and integrating with the ELD standards. I see this lesson having a possible integration with civic learning, and I'll talk a little bit more about that possibly at the end. However, I want to spend the majority of this time taking you through the lesson itself. And so I'm going to click here and take you through this lesson on the preamble and responsibilities of government. Now, each lesson is going to be formatted this same way. You'll actually have access to the title of the lesson, the learning objectives, the compelling questions, the duration, the standards, the framework, the Common Core literacy standards, and the ELD standards as well. But I want to really get into the nuts and bolts so that you can see the way that this lesson is structured so that you could take your students through it. Now, the idea behind these lessons was to literally give teachers something that they could go right into and immediately begin working from. And I would love it if you did that. However, I have no problem with you taking parts out of this lesson as well that you find most useful for your class. But you're going to see that this lesson is going to start students off with a question. What are the responsibilities of government? And you can see that I've listed that on a Padlet here, but you could easily do that on a Jamboard as well within your classroom. And that is already set up on this Google slide presentation that I've created for you here that asks the question, what are the responsibilities of government? And obviously you would make a copy of this and then send the link for your students to be able to respond. Now I've left notes down here as well for you to read along and see what you're attempting to get out with your students, but they're answering what are the responsibilities of government? And they're going to post their responses on either a Padlet or a Jamboard, and then are going to be encouraged to also respond to each other's posts as well, so that students can really ponder, like, what exactly are the responsibilities of government? Which leads into a discussion of the preamble And that'll really be the focus of this lesson. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States. I want you to really emphasize with your students the responsibilities of government found in the preamble to the Constitution, because that's what the students are going to be researching, working in groups, and presenting to the class, all culminating in them writing their own preamble to the Constitution. Now, as an option, you, of course, could show the Schoolhouse Rock video for students who are maybe familiar with that from a little bit younger days. And then you're going to divide the class into 5 different groups, and each group is going to have one of the responsibilities. And you can see on here that these have already been written up for you, so you can assign students to establishing justice, to ensuring domestic tranquility, to providing for the common defense, promoting the general welfare, securing the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, followed by this homework for them to do on an asynchronous day. They're going to individually research how the government has carried out their group's responsibility both in the past and how it might carry it out today / in the future. So they're going to be looking for historical examples and contemporary examples of how the government has established justice all the way down to secured the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. So you're dividing the class into 5 different groups, equal numbers in those groups, and then they're going to be doing individual research, which takes us into the explore portion of the assignment. And in the explore portion, students have a Google Doc where they will be looking into the responsibility of the government. They'll be looking at a minimum of 2 to 3 articles. And you can see in here that I've listed some of the research resources that you could use, but I also want to leave that open to you and the choices that you want to make for your own classroom. And on that sheet, they're going to be listing historical examples and contemporary examples. And they're going to bring this with them to class for the next meeting, because in the next meeting, you're going to send your students into breakout rooms. And in the breakout room, students are going to be explaining, their responsibility of government. And so I've created another Google slide presentation for you with the preamble once again. And then breakout rooms breakout rooms are accessible in here. So you're going to send students into the slide that lists their breakout room. So breakout room number 1 is going to work on historical and contemporary examples for establishing justice, all the way through breakout room number 5, working on historical and contemporary examples on securing the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. The students will then present that to the class, and you can open that up to questions for the class as well. But once again, that Google slide is already there. And then you want to assess those presentations on having the examples. You can also, depending on class time, allow them to ask questions of one another and really look into how well they understand both what that's looked like in the past and what it might look like today, so that they can then elaborate in writing their own preamble to the Constitution. And they can choose to add, they can choose to alter, but it must have a minimum of 5 responsibilities. And they're going to do that on this Google Doc. Now, I want you to notice that on this Google Doc, that in addition to rewriting, they're going to also explain their reasoning and rationale. So I wanted to add a layer of reflection to this. And so they'll be rewriting their preamble here and then reflecting on it as well, so that you've already got that Google Doc squared away for you. And then you'll be assessing that on quantity, quality, and what that reflection looks like. And then finally, the students are going to create their own Flipgrid, where they're going to be talking about which responsibility from the preamble is most important to them and why. How does the government ensure that it accomplishes this responsibility? And then what did they take away from this lesson or assignment? And how does it apply to their world today? Trying to create that relevance, and then also hear their voices through the use of Flipgrid as an app. Now, coming back into the overall lesson, some thoughts. The design behind this is designed for distance learning, but obviously it could transition very well into the hybrid model if that's where you're at right now, so that you can engage your students and give the students options. If you look at all of the lessons that are in here, you're going to see options and options and options for students to work with. Some possible extension ideas is this is a starter for you to dive into civic responsibilities and allow students to take it a little bit further with distance learning on civic learning. Anyhow, If you need more resources for history social science, they can be found both in the notes section of this video and or by going to californiahss.org, where you can find more resources along with more lessons. Thank you for taking the time to watch this today, and I hope you found that helpful and it'll be useful in your classroom. Have a great day.